You watched the State of the Union on Tuesday night, right? Well, maybe you didn't. Maybe you just scrolled through the highlights. Maybe you caught the clips on what your side wanted you to see. Maybe you woke up on Wednesday morning and let your favorite pundit tell you how to feel about it. Hillary Clinton sat down for a deposition yesterday behind closed doors in Chappaqua, New York, about Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton's turn is today, and right now, right this second, every major network is telling you what to think about it. CNN has their angle, Fox News has theirs, and you're sitting there thinking you're informed, thinking you've got the whole picture. You don't. And that's not an insult, that's the design. Welcome back to Trap Think. I'm Darren. If you've been with me from the beginning, thanks. If this is your first time, well, get yourself a snack and settle in, because today we're going somewhere. In my last episode, we talked about the Epstein files. Specifically, we talked about the 3 traps you might find yourself in when you try to digest that situation. The rage trap, the sand trap, and the peace trap. If you haven't listened to that one, I'd encourage you to go back and do that, but it's not required. Today stands on its own, because today we're not just talking about the traps in the abstract, we're going to watch them get set in real time. We're going to catch the machine in action, and then, and this is the part that matters, we're going to talk about what it means for you, not for Democrats, not for Republicans, for you, the person sitting in your car or on your couch or walking with your earbuds in right now. But first, I want to set the table with something. In my last episode, I referenced the book of Ezekiel, where God tells the prophet something that has stuck with me for years. He says, "I've made you a watchman. When you see danger coming, you blow the trumpet. You warn the people. And if you warn them and they don't listen, that's on them. But if you see the danger and you say nothing, their blood is on your hands." Now relax, I'm not out here trying to be a prophet or anything. But I am claiming something. I can see the danger. And the danger isn't a political party. The danger isn't a president or an ex-president. The danger I'm seeing is a system that's got you figured out. A system that's made you predictable. It knows how to make you reactive, how to make you controllable. And the scariest part? You think you're the exception. You're not. So consider this the trumpet. Whether you listen or not is up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and sound it off anyway. All right, let's start with what happened yesterday, because it's a masterclass in everything that Trap Think is all about. Hillary Clinton sat for a deposition in front of the House Oversight Committee. This is part of a bipartisan, and I do want to stress that word, bipartisan, investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, how he operated, how he got away with it, how the most prolific child sex trafficker in modern American history managed to surround himself with the most powerful people on the planet for decades with zero consequence. Now here's what Hillary said. She put her opening statement on X herself. She said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "I don't have any information about Epstein. I never met the man. I never flew on his plane, never visited the island, his homes, his offices." She called the whole thing political theater. Okay, fine. That's her position. She's entitled to state it under oath, and for the record, no one has accused Hillary Clinton of a crime related to Epstein. That's a fact. Put that in your back pocket. Now, her husband Bill, that's a different story. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private plane at least 16 times. That's documented in the flight logs. He was photographed with women in a jacuzzi in files released by the Department of Justice. He was photographed with Ghislaine Maxwell. His name appears hundreds of times in the Epstein documents. His deposition is today, and people close to the situation say it could go even longer than the 5 hours they spent grilling Les Wexner last week. These are the facts, not opinions, not spin, facts. Remember them, because we're about to watch them disappear. Let's go to CNN. And before anyone says I only pick on CNN, I don't. It's more fun to pick on everyone. CNN just happens to be consistently, almost impressively bad at pretending that they're neutral. It's like watching somebody try to hide a basketball under their shirt and then act confused when you ask about it. CNN's framing of the Clinton depositions has centered on 2 things. 1, this is a Republican political operation targeting the Clintons. And 2, the real story is that Democrats are demanding Trump testify too. Now watch this. Watch how they do it. They quote Representative James Wilkinshaw of Virginia saying, and this is a direct quote, "The only reason she is being deposed is because the Republicans continue to have fever dreams about locking her up," and then immediately pivot to Representative Robert Garcia demanding that Trump be deposed next. Did you see what just happened? The actual subject, Jeffrey Epstein, child sex trafficking, how the federal government failed victims for decades, just vanished. Poof. It's gone. Replaced by a partisan tennis match. Clinton versus Trump, red versus blue. You pick a side and get angry at the other one. That's not journalism, that's a card trick. And you're supposed to be watching the hand that's moving, not the one that palmed the card. CNN did report something else that's worth noting. Representative Garcia, who's actually been one of the more serious Democrats on this investigation, said that there are more files missing from the DOJ release.
The Department of Justice continues to lead a White House cover-up. And we're going to be demanding, even over these next few days, that the remaining files that have not been released get released to the public. And that includes new files that were just discovered in the last couple days of a survivor that has made serious accusations and allegations against not just Jeffrey Epstein, but also against President Trump, and about abuse that she suffered when she was a minor.
Now, that's a significant allegation. Whether it's true, partially true, or politically motivated, that's significant. But CNN doesn't lead with that either, because the real story for CNN isn't Epstein. It's not the victims. It's not accountability. The real story for CNN is, can we turn this into a weapon against Trump? If the answer is yes, then boom, front page. If the answer is that it makes Democrats look bad, paragraph 17 probably. Now let's flip the channel. Fox News. You'd think they'd be the ones digging into the Epstein details, right? After all, the Clintons are sitting down right now. This is what Fox News has wanted for decades. They should be sitting comfortably in their element. And they kinda are, sort of. Fox is covering the depositions with the energy of a kid on Christmas morning. Chairman Comer is out front doing press conferences talking about transparency, accountability, and getting answers for the victims. Beautiful. I mean it. That sounds great, until you notice what's missing. Fox is not, and I need you to hear this, Fox is not pressing on the Trump connections to Epstein at all. Trump's name appears in the Epstein documents. Trump was photographed with Epstein. Trump flew on Epstein's plane. Now, Trump has denied wrongdoing and says he cut ties with Epstein before his arrest. Fine. Same courtesy we give to the Clintons. But Fox doesn't want you thinking about that. Fox wants you thinking about the Clintons, just the Clintons and only the Clintons, because the Clintons are useful. The Clintons are the villain in the Fox News cinematic universe. And if the camera pans too wide, you'll see that the villain shares the country club with the hero. Well, that messes up the story, doesn't it? You know what this reminds me of? It's like watching two rival sports networks cover the same game. One network only shows the highlights of their team. The other network only shows the fouls committed by your team. Neither one is showing you the full game, and you, sitting there in your jersey, you think you watched the game, but you didn't. You watched a highlight reel that was designed to keep you loyal to your jersey. Here's the thing that nobody in media is going to say, so I'll say it. The Epstein investigation should terrify everyone equally. Not just Democrats, not just Republicans, but everyone, because Epstein didn't care about your political affiliation. He didn't have a red client list and a blue client list. He had one list, and it was long, and it included people from every corner of power, politics, finance, royalty, Hollywood. But the media, every single outlet, has taken this one unified horror and split it into two partisan storylines. They took child sex trafficking and gave it a team color. Think about how depraved that is. Think about what it says about the machine. They looked at the worst thing imaginable, the systemic abuse of children. And their first thought was, how can we use this to make the other side look bad? They're all sociopaths. And it works. Because you let it work. Because when you see a CNN headline about Trump's connections to Epstein, you either feel vindicated or defensive. When you see a Fox News headline about Clinton's 16 flights, you either feel vindicated or defensive. And in neither case are you feeling what you should be feeling, which is, who are the victims? What happened to them? And why did every institution, left, right, and center, fail them for 30 damn years? That's the question the machine doesn't want you asking, because that question doesn't have a team. Here's what I want you to do for just a second. I want you to imagine you're not a Democrat or Republican. I know. That's like asking a fish to imagine it's not wet, but just try. Imagine you have no political identity at all. You're just a person, a human being, and someone tells you, there was a man who trafficked children to powerful people for decades. The most powerful people in the world knew about it or were involved. And when he finally got caught, he supposedly died in prison under suspicious circumstances. And now, years later, we're just getting around to asking questions. If you heard that story with no team allegiance, you'd burn the whole thing down. You wouldn't care who was on the list. You'd want every name, every flight log, every photograph. You'd want justice for every single victim, regardless of who it implicates. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is you're being sorted into one of two lines. Line A says, the Clintons are the real villains, and Democrats are covering for them. And line B says, this is a political hit job, and Republicans are ignoring Trump's connections. And both lines lead to the same place, a room where you're angry at the other side and completely useless to those children. That's the trap, and most of you walked right into it this morning watching the news while you were eating your cereal. All right, I need to pause here because if I keep this energy up for an hour straight or more, I'm going to have an aneurysm and you're going to get sleepy. So let's lighten up for a minute. Can we just acknowledge how absurd all of this is? I mean, let's really sit with it for a second. We have an actual former president, Bill Clinton, a man who looked the American people in the windows of their soul, their eyes, on camera, and said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. That's a terrible Bill Clinton. Whatever. And he's about to sit for a deposition about Jeffrey Epstein. And his defense so far is basically, I flew on the plane 16 times, but it was for my nonprofit. 16 times? We're supposed to think that's coincidence? That's a frequent flyer program. Somewhere there's a punch card. Fly 10 times on the Lolita Express. Your 11th trip is complimentary. And then you've got Hillary yesterday. Her whole approach was, I never met the man. I never met him. Ma'am, your husband flew on his plane 16 times. You're telling me he never asked, hey, Bill, who's Jeff? And why does he have an island? Why is there a painting of you in a blue dress hanging in his foyer? You just never brought it up, huh? In 30 years of marriage? I mean, my girlfriend asked me where I went for lunch if I'm 20 minutes late, but Bill Clinton's doing laps on a private jet and you're just not curious? Now, to be fair, and I always try to be fair, even when it hurts, Trump's side of this isn't exactly squeaky clean either. Trump was asked about Epstein, and his response was basically, I knew him. He was a terrific guy. Then I wasn't a fan. That's it. Also a terrible Trump impersonation. I'll work on it. That's the character arc. He was great, then he wasn't. That's not an explanation. That's barely a Yelp review. 5 stars, then 1 star. Would not visit again. And then there's James Comer. Chairman Comer, the man running this investigation. And God bless him, he's out there saying, no one has accused the Clintons of wrongdoing. Sir, you called the press conference. You flew people to Chappaqua. You fought for 6 months to get these depositions. You nearly held a former president and Secretary of State in criminal contempt of Congress. But no one's accused of anything? That's like setting up a courtroom, swearing in the jury, and then saying, oh, we're just here for the vibes. Meanwhile, Lauren Boebert, a representative from Colorado, is at the deposition. She took a picture and then sent it to the media. This deposition was supposed to be closed door. It got paused over the photo leak. Paused. We stopped a child trafficking investigation because she couldn't resist a selfie? Hold on. Stop asking about the pedophiles. This lighting is great. At this point, we live in a simulation. We have to. There's no other explanation. And on the other side, you got Robert Garcia standing outside the deposition demanding that Trump come testify too, which, fine, great. I can support that, I guess. Call everybody. But Garcia's timing is impeccable. He waits until the Clinton deposition is literally underway, behind closed doors, right now, this very second. And then he walks to the nearest microphone and says, but what about Trump? Brother, we're doing the Clinton thing right now. Can we finish one deposition before we start booking the next one? It's like being at a restaurant and before the appetizers arrive, the waiter's asking if you want dessert. I mean, can I get some more breadsticks first? The funniest part, and this is where I almost lost it, is that both the Clintons actually asked for a public hearing. They said, put the cameras on, let the American people watch. And Comer said, no. He said the committee's practice is to do closed-door depositions first, which procedurally might be true, but the optics are hilarious. The Clintons are out here saying, film everything, we've got nothing to hide, and the guy investigating them is saying, no, we need to do this in private. Now, I'm not naive. I know why the Clintons want public hearings. It's not because they are transparent, it's because public hearings let them control the narrative. They get opening statements, they get sound bites, they get to perform on camera. Hillary Clinton has been doing congressional testimony since before some of you were even born. She's a professional witness the way Tiger Woods is a professional golfer. You put her in front of a microphone and she's going to swing. Private depositions take away her best weapon, the audience. But still, the comedy of the situation is nuts. We've got a former president who partied with a pedophile taking a deposition from a guy who can't keep his own committee from leaking photos to commentators, while the Democrats are outside yelling about a different president who also partied with the same pedophile, and somehow, the American media has managed to turn this into a story about which party is meaner. You can't write this. You literally cannot write this. If you pitched this as a TV show, Netflix would say it's too unrealistic. All right, let's shift gears here. Tuesday night, the State of the Union. 108 minutes. An hour and 48 minutes. The longest State of the Union address in modern American history. I want to put that in perspective for you. That's longer than most Marvel movies. That's longer than the average NFL game without commercials. That is longer from a flight from Denver to Las Vegas. Trump talked for so long that the late night shows couldn't start on time. Colbert went live almost at midnight. Kimmel just gave up waiting and started his show while Trump was still talking. I'm not even making that up. But here's the thing about the State of the Union that nobody ever says out loud. It doesn't matter. I mean, the speech itself, the actual content, it barely matters. And I don't mean that as a partisan shot at Trump. I mean it about every State of the Union by every president ever. It's just a ritual. It's a ceremony. The political equivalent of the halftime show. It's entertainment dressed up as governance. The president walks in, everybody claps, some of them are chanting USA, USA. He says the State of the Union is strong, which they always say, by the way, even when it demonstrably is not. And then one side stands up 50 times and the other side sits there looking like they're at a funeral. You've seen it your whole life. You know the choreography, so why does it still work on you? Let's start with the Republican response, and I'm going to be specific here because the details matter. Trump came out swinging. He said, quote, "The nation is back. Bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before." He talked about the ceremony. He talked about the immigration enforcement. He honored the U.S. men's hockey team that just won gold at the Winter Olympics in Milan. And by the way, that was a genuinely cool moment. Bipartisan standing ovation. Even I enjoyed it. He announced he was giving the team's goaltender, Connor Hellebuck, the Presidential Medal of Freedom for making 41 saves in a gold medal game. He honored veterans. He presented Purple Hearts. He brought up a 100-year-old Korean War veteran and gave him the Medal of Honor. Now, if you're watching this as a conservative, as a Trump supporter, you are eating this shit up. And honestly, some of these moments were actually pretty powerful. Honoring veterans is never wrong. Celebrating American athletes is never wrong. Those are real moments. But here's where I need you to pay attention. Those moments are strategic. They're not accidental. They didn't happen because Trump was overcome with spontaneous patriotism. The U.S. men's hockey team wasn't on a layover at Reagan, so they just popped on over. There's a team of speechwriters, strategists, and communications professionals who spent weeks, maybe months, deciding exactly when in the speech to introduce the hockey team, exactly when to pivot to the veterans, exactly when to create the emotional peaks that would make you stand up in your living room. And if you actually did stand up in your living room during a State of the Union speech, I mean, look inward. And then came the moment, the one everyone's talking about.
One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
That cheering went on for another 2 minutes almost. So halfway through the speech, Trump asked everyone in the chamber to stand if they agreed that the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not, and he used this word deliberately, illegal aliens. Every Republican in the chamber leapt to their feet. J.D. Vance jumped up. Mike Johnson jumped up. The applause went on and on and on. Democrats were still seated at their funeral.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourselves for not standing up. Now, let me tell you what you just heard. Because what you think you heard and what you actually heard are two different things. What you think you heard, if you're a conservative, is Democrats refusing to support American citizens. You think you heard a moment of truth where the left showed its true colors. Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff, posted on X immediately afterward, the entire Democrat Party disqualified itself from government service in this one exchange, quote unquote. Fox News ran that as a highlight. Mike Johnson called it a billion-dollar ad that just wrote itself. And here's the thing, they're right. Not that Democrats disqualified themselves, that's just hyperbole, but that it was designed to be an ad.
We'll start with Speaker Johnson. Mr. Speaker, I guess you made it to the camera. Thank you for joining us. All right, you were sitting there. You had a great view that most Americans didn't have, and you got to see up close and personal that side of the room when the president challenged them and said, stand with us if you believe that the American government should protect American citizens first and not illegal aliens. Why didn't they stand?
It was a stunning moment, Sean. I think they're going to regret that video because we will be using it in the midterm elections. It showed what they're all about.
Johnson just told you. He literally told you on camera. He said we'll be using that video in the midterm elections. He said the quiet part out loud. And most of you didn't even notice because you were too busy feeling patriotic. That moment wasn't about protecting American citizens. That moment was a trap set by a former reality television producer who understands cameras and audiences better than almost anyone alive. He framed a question in a way that made it impossible for Democrats to stand without endorsing his immigration policy and impossible for them to sit without looking like they hate America. It was a damned if you do, damned if you don't moment by design. The Associated Press, which is not really a liberal outlet, nor really a conservative outlet, literally described it as Trump springing a trap on Democrats. Those are their words, and they're right. It was masterful political theater. And if you're a conservative who watched it and felt a swell of pride, congratulations. The machine worked on you precisely the way it was supposed to. Now, Democrats, don't get comfortable over there. You're not getting out of this either. Let's talk about the Democrat response. Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger delivered the official rebuttal, and she came out strong. She opened with 3 questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable? Is the president working to keep Americans safe? Is the president working for you? She hit Trump on the economy, healthcare, and immigration enforcement. And it was a speech, a polished, pre-written, rehearsed, telepromptered speech. Now, I want you to think about the timeline here because this is where it gets interesting. Trump's speech ended at roughly 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Spanberger's response aired almost immediately after. That response was what, 8-10 minutes? Perfectly scripted, perfectly delivered, professional lighting, professional framing. You're supposed to believe that Abigail Spanberger watched the State of the Union, was so moved by what she heard that she formulated a comprehensive rebuttal touching on the economy, healthcare, immigration, and affordability. And had it written, rehearsed, and camera ready in what, 15 minutes? Come on. That speech was written days ago, maybe weeks. It was designed to respond to the general themes they knew Trump would hit. Because everyone knows what Trump is going to say. He's going to talk about the economy. He's going to talk about immigration. He's going to take credit for things. The Democrats know this. So they pre-write a response, leave a few blanks to fill in with some specific quotes from the night, and roll it out like it's a real-time reaction. And the media treats it like it's genuine dialogue, like Spanberger heard Trump and was compelled to respond. She wasn't compelled by a damn thing. She was scheduled. There's a difference. Now, is this unique to Democrats? Absolutely not. When Obama was president, Republicans did the same thing. Marco Rubio did a response one year and famously reached for a bottle of water on camera. That response was pre-written too. This is how the game works. Both sides do it, both sides know the other side does it, and somehow you, the viewer, are supposed to pretend it's all happening in real time. This is essentially pro wrestling. And I mean that with respect to professional wrestling because at least the WWE is honest about being entertainment. But the response speeches are just the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk about what happened inside the chamber, and I'm sorry, but there's some foul language coming. Rashida Tlaib wore a pin that said, "Fuck ICE," to the State of the Union. It was on TV. The RNC called it sick. Conservatives wanted her censured again. Al Green, Democrat from Texas, held up a sign that said, "Black people aren't apes." a reference to a video Trump shared on social media, which he didn't actually share, somebody else shared, but whatever, it doesn't matter. At one point, he held up the sign in such a way that it made it look like it said, "Black people rent apes." Well, he got ejected for the second year in a row. Second year in a row, the man came prepared with a sign and a plan to get thrown out. At what point do we acknowledge that this is just performance art? Al Green is not trying to change Trump's mind. He's trying to get on camera, and it works every single time. Ilhan Omar shouted, "You have killed Americans," during the immigration section. Her guest, a woman she brought to the State of the Union as a personal guest, was arrested by Capitol Police for allegedly standing up silently during the speech. Just standing. She was arrested for standing? Omar said she was aggressively handled and taken to the hospital before being booked. Okay. Now, on the other side, Trump called Democrats crazy. He pointed at them and said, "These people are crazy." He called Nancy Pelosi out by name while attacking members of Congress for profiting off of public service. This, by the way, is coming from a man whose net worth increased by $3 billion in 2025. This is according to Forbes, not according to some left-wing blog. Forbes. He called for a ban on congressional stock trading, and this was actually a bipartisan moment. Both sides clapped because both sides know it looks bad. Whether either side will actually follow through? Ask me again in 10 years. I'll just be here holding my breath. The Democratic Women's Caucus wore white to honor the suffragette movement and signal that they're still in the fight. The symbolism is lovely. It's also coordinated, focus grouped, and designed for Instagram. Someone made that decision in a conference room. Thomas Massie, a Republican, and Ro Khanna, a Democrat, two of the members who actually pushed hardest for the Epstein files release, had planned to sit together as a bipartisan gesture. They lost their seats because other lawmakers had camped out to grab aisle seats for the cameras. The guys who are actually doing bipartisan work on one of the most important investigations in modern history couldn't sit together because their colleagues were too busy positioning themselves for a handshake with the president on live television. That right there, that is your State of the Union. Okay, the speech ends. The responses are given. What happens next? This is my favorite part because this is where the trap actually closes. The speech itself, that's just the raw material, the cheese in the rat trap, if you will. The real product is the aftermath, the commentary, the spin, the packaging. And it happens so fast, so professionally, so seamlessly that you don't even realize you're consuming a manufactured product. You think you're forming an opinion. You're not. You're being assigned one. Fox News called Trump's speech amazingly patriotic. Mark Levin posted that Trump is a truly historic leader. Charles Gasparino said that Trump is a colossus. Mike Johnson said it was the best State of the Union speech he's ever seen. The roundtable discussions are glowing, symbolic, powerful, historic. The message is clear. You should feel proud. You should feel like you're winning. You should feel like Democrats who sat there are un-American and the man at the podium is saving the country. CNN ran an annotated, fact-checked version of the speech within hours. Chuck Schumer called Trump out of touch. The entire Democratic leadership lined up to say the speech ignored real issues. Gavin Newsom posted on X that it was boring and that Trump is destroying the country. The framing is clear. You should feel angry. You should feel afraid. You should feel like the man at the podium is a threat to democracy, or whatever you want to call it, because at this point, who cares anymore? And then the late night shows kick in, and this is where I want to camp out for a minute, because this is one of the most effective propaganda tools in America, and almost nobody treats it that way. Jimmy Kimmel, who I kind of think is human waste personally, well, he went live. He delayed his taping specifically to respond to the speech, and his monologue was that kind of low-hanging fruit, kind of funny. That's all I can give him. He said Trump's speech focused on major accomplishments, and then when those 8 seconds were up, he just riffed for an hour and a half. That's a mediocre joke. I guess I chuckled. But then Kimmel dropped the comedy and went full editorial.
Glad I have to say, Trump's dementia really makes me miss Joe Biden's dementia. It was a much friendlier dementia. Here's the real State of the Union, okay? We have a nutjob wannabe king who's doing everything he can to censor opinions he doesn't want to hear. He has his goons arresting, incarcerating, and killing American citizens. He's got funding for cancer research at children's hospitals, while he rakes in literally billions of dollars for himself and his family. He's coming after our right to vote. He's protecting pedophiles and won't explain it. He's lining the pockets of billionaires, all while neglecting the sick, the poor, the the hungry, in the name of Jesus, by the way, who you could read all about in a Donald Trump edition of the God Bless the USA Bible that is made in China and available for $99.99. That is the State of the Union, okay? Now, there were some positive moments.
Now, regardless of whether you agree or disagree of any of that, and some of it frankly has a tinge of truth to it, notice what happened. This is a comedy show. This is supposed to be entertainment, and it just became a political rally. Jimmy Kimmel is not an elected official. He's not a policy expert. He's not even a journalist. He's a talk show host. But he just delivered a more passionate, more specific, more emotionally charged rebuttal to the State of the Union than the actual official Democratic response. And his audience, the people in that studio, they're laughing and clapping and hooting and hollering. And here's the part that should make your hair stand up a little. These people were told when to clap. There's a sign. There's a warm-up comic who preps the audience. There are cue cards and audience wranglers and producers who manage the energy in that room. You're watching a manufactured emotional response and mistaking it for organic agreement. Stephen Colbert also went live. This is what he said.
Welcome to the Late Show, my friends, in here and out there. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see from the official bug, we are live right there following the State of the Union. I didn't know what to expect. These are always kind of rough with Trump. So just to smooth things out, right before the speech, I dropped an edible and strapped in. Just following Michelle Obama's advice. When they go low, we get high. Now, I'm joking. Obviously, I'm joking.
Funny, I guess. He later called it a dark speech filled with divisive lies. His audience gave him an enduring, affectionate ovation. And then, by multiple accounts, that ovation exhausted the energy in the room, and the rest of the show was kind of a slog. Because performing outrage for 2 hours is actually exhausting when the cameras are on. But that first 10 minutes, that's all they need. Those clips will be everywhere by morning. Fallon played it safer. Fallon always plays it safer. Fallon is like the vanilla ice cream of late night. You know what you're getting and it's fine, but nobody's writing poetry about it. But here's my question, and I mean this sincerely. When did comedy shows become the primary vehicle for political opposition in America? When did we decide that a man who got famous for watching juggies jumping on trampolines on The Man Show should be the voice of progressive resistance? When did the laugh track become a political tool? I'll tell you when. When the machine figured out that humor bypasses critical thinking. When you laugh at something, your guard drops. When your guard drops, the message slips in. It's not, here's an argument against Trump's policies, evaluate the evidence. It's, here's a joke about Trump being an idiot, and now you associate his policies with stupidity. That's not persuasion, that's conditioning. And the right has their version of this too. Gutfeld exists. Conservative podcasters exist. They do the same thing in the other direction. Here's a joke about AOC being dumb and looking like a horse. And now you don't have to take progressive economics seriously. Same mechanism, different jersey. Let me bring this all the way home now. Everything I've described, the Clinton depositions, the State of the Union, the media coverage, the late night shows, the pin wearing, the sign holding, the standing, the sitting, the shouting, all of it, every bit of it is a system. It runs on a fuel source, and that fuel source is you. You, the listener, the viewer, the scroller, the sharer, the commenter, the guy who posts the angry emoji, the woman who reposts the Jimmy Kimmel clip, the person who screenshots the Fox News headline and texts it to their group chat with, "This is what I've been saying." You are the product. You're not the audience. You're not the customer. You're the product. Your attention, your outrage, your loyalty, your predictability. That's what they're selling. That's what they're harvesting. Every time you react exactly the way that they wanted you to, a cash register rings somewhere. The system owns you, and I'm not saying that to be provocative. I'm saying it because it's true, and more people need to say it. The trap works like clockwork. They barely have to try anymore. Some of you are so deep in lockstep that you don't even need to watch the State of the Union. You just need to know your side's aftermath. You skip the speech altogether and go straight to the commentary. You don't consume the information, you consume the interpretation. And you've been doing it so long that you've lost the ability to tell the difference. You're the person who reads the movie review instead of watching the movie. And then you argue about the movie at a dinner like you've seen it. You haven't seen it. You've seen someone else's reaction to it, and you've adopted that reaction as your own. Let me make this painfully specific. If you actually watched the State of the Union and your first move was to check what your preferred commentator thought about it, you're in the trap. If you saw the Clinton deposition headlines and immediately sorted them into my team versus their team, you are owned. If you shared a Jimmy Kimmel clip or a Levin post or a Miller tweet within 15 minutes of it going up, they got you. If your emotional response to the State of the Union was identical to the emotional response of the network you watch, you're in the trap. You didn't form an opinion, you downloaded one. And the people who set the trap, they don't care about you. Let me say that one more time because I need it to land. You don't matter to them. Donald Trump does not know your name. He does not know your story. He does not know your struggles. You are a vote and a rally attendee and a number in a poll. Joe Biden did not know your name either. Nancy Pelosi does not know your name. Chuck Schumer does not know your name. Kimmel does not know your name. Hannity does not know your name. Colbert does not know your name. You are a chump change with a dollar sign and no face. You barely register as a blip. You're a data point. You're an impression. You're a metric on a quarterly earnings report. Your outrage is monetized. Your loyalty is leveraged. Your identity has been reduced to a voting booth and an ad profile. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that you defend them. You defend the very people who use you. You go online and you argue with strangers to protect the honor of politicians who would step over your unconscious body on a sidewalk without looking down. You sacrifice friendships, family relationships, Thanksgiving dinners for what? For a team that doesn't even know you're on the roster. During the State of the Union, Trump looked at the seated Democrats and said they should be ashamed of themselves. And you know what? He's partially right, but not for the reason he thinks. The shame isn't the Democrats sitting down during a loyalty test. The shame is that the loyalty test worked on everybody. Republicans stood up because they were supposed to. Democrats sat down because they were supposed to, and 100 million Americans watched and felt exactly what they were supposed to feel. Nobody thought for themselves. Nobody paused. Nobody said, wait, this question is designed to divide. Let me think about what's actually being asked here instead of performing my allegiance like a trained seal. We should be ashamed, not them. Us, you and me, ashamed that we tossed them the keys to our response, our emotions, our time and energy, our relationships, the keys to our hearts. We handed them the steering wheel and then acted surprised when they drove us off a cliff. I want to leave you with an image, because I think this is the thing that should make you the most angry. Not angry at a party, angry at the game. After the State of the Union, after the standing and the sitting and the shouting and the pins and the signs and the ejections and the 108-minute marathon of political theater, they all went out and got drinks together. Not metaphorically, literally. There are receptions. There are after parties. There are gatherings where the same people who just spent 2 hours performing tribal warfare for your benefit shake hands, clink glasses, and talk about their kids' school. Mike Johnson, who called out the State of the Union as the best speech he's ever seen, will talk to Hakeem Jeffries in the hallway tomorrow morning about scheduling. The same Democrats who sat stone-faced during Trump's speech will co-sponsor bills with the same Republicans who leapt to their feet. They'll ride the same elevators, eat in the same cafeteria, use the same gym. You think that they hate each other the way you hate the people on the other side? They don't. It's a job. It's a performance. They clock in, they put on the show, and then they clock out. The animosity you feel, that's real. Your blood pressure is real. The argument you had with your brother-in-law is real. The friend you unfriended on Facebook, that's real. The Thanksgiving dinner that was ruined, that was also real. Their animosity, it's a negotiating tactic. It's a fundraising strategy. It's content for a 30-second ad. It's as real as a movie set. The building looks real from the front. You walk around back and it's plywood and 2x4s. And you beautiful, passionate, patriotic, well-meaning, manipulated person, you went home and fought with someone you love about which set of plywood's better. So, where do we go from here? Because I don't want to be the guy who just diagnoses the problem and then walks away. That's what most media critics do. They say that the system is broken, and then they get on Twitter and participate in the broken system. I don't want to do that. I want to give you something you can actually use. Here's what I'd ask you to do this week, just this week. Think of it as an experiment. Watch the Clinton deposition footage when it's released without commentary. C-SPAN is great for this. For God's sake, don't watch it on CNN or Fox News. Don't watch the highlights curated by a producer who decided what you should see. Watch the raw footage. Listen to the questions. Listen to the answers. Form your own opinion. See if your opinion matches the one that your preferred network gave you. If it does, great. If it doesn't, congratulations. You just thought for yourself. Maybe for the first time in a while. 2, rewatch the State of the Union, or watch it for the first time, again, on C-SPAN. There's no commentary, no chyrons, no reaction shots of the anchors, just the speech. All 108 minutes of it. See what you notice when nobody is telling you what to notice. See what you feel when nobody is telling you what to feel. 3, next time you feel a strong emotional reaction to a piece of news, hit pause. Don't share it. Don't react. Don't text it to anyone. Just sit with it for, 60 seconds. Ask yourself, am I feeling this because it's genuinely important, or am I feeling this because someone designed this content specifically to make me feel this way? If the answer is the second one, close the app, go outside, pet your dog, get a glass of water. You know you need to hydrate anyway. Just do literally anything else. 4, remember the victims. In all of this, the depositions, the partisan coverage, the media circus, there are real people, real survivors, real victims of Jeffrey Epstein who have been waiting for decades to see some justice. They're watching the same coverage you are, and they're watching their trauma get turned into a political football. They deserve better from the media, from Congress, and from you. Don't let anyone turn their pain into your team's talking point. And 5, be suspicious of anyone, including me, who tells you how to feel. I mean that. I'm sitting here giving you an hour-long talking to. I have biases. I have blind spots. I have a perspective that's shaped by my own experiences. Don't take my word for anything as gospel, unless I'm actually, quoting the gospel. Go look at the sources. Go read the transcripts. Go think for yourself. If TrapThink is doing its job, it should make you more skeptical of everything, including TrapThink. I started this episode by talking about Ezekiel, the watchman on the wall, and I wanted to end here too. The watchman's job isn't to fix the problem. It's to sound the alarm. It's to say, I see what's coming, wake up. I see it. I see the machine. I see how it processes you. I see how it sorts you, categorizes you, activates you, monetizes you, and then just discards you. I see how it turns good people into mouthpieces for teams that don't give a shit about them or even know they exist. I see how it takes genuine love of country and weaponizes it into tribal loyalty. I see how it takes genuine concern for justice and twists it into partisan rage. And I see you, the real you, not the avatar, not the voter, not the data point, the person. The one who's tired of being angry all the time but doesn't know how to stop. The one who knows something's wrong but can't quite put their finger on it. The one who used to be able to talk to their neighbor about politics without wanting to throw a chair at them. That person is still in there. Under all the conditioning and the commentary and the cable news and the podcasts and the algorithms, you're still in there. Wake up. Realize you aren't real to them. You're a dollar sign with no face. You're a metric. You're a means to an end. But you don't have to be. You can think for yourself. You can hold every powerful person to the same standard regardless of the letter next to their name. You can demand answers about Epstein without caring which party it hurts. You can watch the State of the Union and form your own opinion before the spin doctors tell you what to think. You can love your country without pledging allegiance to a network. You can be free, but you have to choose it. Every day, every headline, every notification, every impulse to react. The trumpet is sounding. The wall has a watchman. Whether you listen is up to you. I'm Darren. This is TrapThink. Stay curious, stay honest, and stay human. I'll see you next week.